I'm sorry.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Ali MacGraw was once Hollywood's picture of innocence, the young woman whose role in Love Story defined a generation. But behind the lights, her own story was far darker. At the height of her fame, she was swept into the orbit of Steve McQueen, the man the world adored as the king of cool. Their romance? It began like a fairy tale, but soon it spiraled into jealousy, control, and heartbreak. Now, decades later, Ali MacGraw looks back on the love that made her and nearly destroyed her. This is the untold story of a woman who had it all: stardom, success, and family, until destiny placed her in the path of the one man who would change her life forever. She was the face of innocence on the big screen, but Ali MacGraw's real story was far more complicated. Ali MacGraw's rise to fame didn't start in Hollywood. It began in a small town in New York called Bedford Village. Her childhood was far from glamorous. Her father struggled with alcohol, and her parents were always fighting. Growing up in that chaos left Ali with little confidence. Looking for a way out, she turned to modeling. Under the guidance of fashion editor Diana Vreeland, Ali broke into the world of style and beauty. But that was just the beginning. Modeling soon opened the door to acting, and in 1969, she landed her very first film role in Goodbye Columbus. The movie was a hit, and Hollywood quickly took notice. That's when Robert Evans, Paramount's head of production, entered her life. He saw something special in Ali and gave her the role that would define her career: Love Story. When the film came out in 1970, it exploded. With its unforgettable line, "Love means never having to say you're sorry," the movie made over $100 million worldwide. Overnight, Ali MacGraw went from a newcomer to one of the biggest stars of the decade. Off-screen, things looked just as perfect. She married Evans in 1969, and by 1971, they had a son, Joshua. She had fame, fortune, and family. The dream life everyone imagined. But Hollywood dreams don't last forever. In 1972, Evans got her a role in The Getaway, alongside the king of cool himself, Steve McQueen. Ali almost turned it down, worried about leaving her young son. Yet deep down, she knew the real danger wasn't the distance. It was Steve. In her memoir, she later admitted, "I knew I was going to get in some serious trouble with Steve." And she was right. In July 1973, Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen married, sealing their love in front of the world. To fans, it looked like a fairy tale, but inside the marriage, reality was harsher. McQueen forced Ali to sign a prenup, one that guaranteed she would get nothing if they ever divorced. Imagine being the brightest star in Hollywood, then giving it all up because the man you loved demanded it. That was Ali MacGraw's reality. At the very height of her fame, she stepped away from the spotlight, not out of choice, but out of fear of losing Steve McQueen. On the surface, life in Malibu looked perfect. The couple shared a stunning beach house, hosted barbecues, and strolled along the shore like a picture-perfect Hollywood romance. But behind those doors, their marriage was anything but a dream. McQueen carried scars that never truly healed. Abandoned by his father and sent away by his mother, he grew up suspicious of everyone, especially women. Those wounds showed up in their marriage through relentless jealousy. Ali recalled how even glancing at another man could set him off. Yet McQueen himself openly flirted, and rumors of his affairs swirled constantly. The biggest sacrifice, though, was Ali's career. McQueen, then the highest-paid actor in the world, flat out told her he didn't want a working wife. And she gave in. "He was the biggest movie star in the world, and he didn't want me to work," she admitted years later. Out of love and fear, she walked away from Hollywood. Instead of premieres and scripts, Ali's days became filled with cooking, cleaning, and raising her young son from her previous marriage. In her memoir, she confessed she played the role of simple woman to perfection. But the isolation grew heavy. While she adored McQueen, his need for control made her feel trapped. And when his heavy drinking and drug use spiraled, Ali too began battling her own demons with alcohol. What began as a fiery love story soon twisted into something far darker: suspicion, jealousy, and silence. By the mid-1970s, the fairy tale between Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen had collapsed. Their Malibu home, once alive with passion, now echoed with unspoken resentment and crushing quiet. MacGraw would later admit that she lived in constant fear, terrified that if she spoke her truth, she'd lose him forever. So, instead of fighting back, she endured in silence. By 1976, the cracks in their marriage could no longer be hidden. On the big screen, McQueen was still the untouchable Hollywood rebel, the man who made audiences dream of freedom in Bullet or The Great Escape. But behind closed doors, the image shattered. His addictions were tightening their grip, pulling him deeper into nights of booze, drugs, and reckless escapades. He'd return home volatile, withdrawn, and suspicious. And for Ali, who had already sacrificed her independence to keep him, the loneliness became unbearable. The cost of love, for her, was silence. The cost for him was destruction. She thought the wine would dull the pain, but instead it only deepened the emptiness. The whispers in Hollywood grew louder, crueler. Rumors of Steve McQueen's affairs swirled everywhere, each one slicing into her with invisible blades. At first, she clung to denial, convincing herself that the man she once adored, the fearless, magnetic star, was still there, hidden beneath the jealousy and rage. But denial couldn't drown out the truth. The whispers became too sharp to ignore. The humiliation was unbearable. Feeling unwanted, broken, and desperate for comfort, she later admitted that she too began seeking solace outside the marriage. Their once passionate love story had decayed into something darker, a vicious cycle of betrayal and bitterness, each act of disloyalty cutting deeper than the last. By 1977, Ali MacGraw's patience snapped. She told McQueen she wanted her life back, her career, her voice, her freedom. For her, it wasn't just about acting again, it was about reclaiming herself. McQueen's response was brutal in its finality. According to biographer Mark Elliott, he looked at her and said, "In that case, we are filing for divorce." Those words shattered whatever illusion remained. In that moment, she realized her choices had never truly mattered to him. And so, determined to rise from the wreckage, she accepted a role in Convoy, directed by Sam Peckinpah. It was a turning point, her attempt at independence. But for their marriage, it was the point of no return. The end came faster than anyone could imagine. In 1978, after 5 years of passion tangled with control and jealousy, Ali MacGraw's marriage to Steve McQueen collapsed in divorce. Just 2 years later, tragedy struck. In 1980, at only 50 years old, McQueen was gone. Taken by mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer caused by asbestos exposure. His death stunned Hollywood and shattered those who had known him best. For Ali, it was complicated. Despite the betrayals, the anger, and the chaos, she had loved him deeply. Decades later, she would confess with heartbreaking honesty, "I wish we had both grown old, sober." A simple wish for a future forever stolen by addiction, pride, and an untimely death. And yet, life didn't stop for her. At just 41, she was left behind. No longer his wife, but still carrying the weight of his loss like a widow. The finality of death cut deeper than the fear of abandonment that had once haunted her. Hollywood, however, had little patience for grief. She pushed forward, landing roles in Convoy in 1978
and later a 14-episode run on the primetime soap Dynasty in 1984. But the sparkle that once crowned her the industry's brightest new star was fading. Audiences moved on. Directors typecast her, or worse, ignored her entirely. Behind the curtain, her pain grew louder. Alcohol became her crutch, feeding the emptiness left by McQueen's death and her own lost sense of self. By the early 1990s, the breaking point could no longer be outrun.
It started as comfort, but soon became a cage. Alcohol, once her escape, now threatened to consume her entirely. Ali MacGraw knew she was standing at the edge of destruction. And so she made a choice, one that would change everything. She entered the Betty Ford Center, where the real battle began, not just against addiction, but against the ghosts of her past, failed marriages, a career left in ruins, and the lingering scars of her life with Steve McQueen. This was her turning point, the moment she began to take her life back. In 1991, she bared it all in her memoir, Moving Pictures. The book was raw, fearless, and painfully honest, unveiling her turbulent childhood, the chaos of love, and the crushing cost of fame. Readers connected instantly. Her story wasn't just hers, it was theirs, a mirror of their own struggles with love, loss, and addiction. The book became a bestseller, cementing her voice as one of resilience and truth. But MacGraw was done with Hollywood. By 1994, she walked away from the cameras and lights, choosing instead the quiet skies of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Here, she traded red carpets for mornings spent painting, movie sets for afternoons in the garden, chaos for meditation, yoga, and the company of animals. In solitude, she found what she had spent decades searching for: peace. Now, in her later years, Ali MacGraw reflects with clarity. After fame, heartbreak, and survival, she has finally discovered the one thing Hollywood could never give her: the serenity of a life rebuilt on her own terms. 30 years without a drink, something Ali MacGraw once thought was impossible. Yet today, it stands as one of her greatest triumphs. I used to rewrite the past, fantasize about the future. But now I believe in living fully, to the very best of my ability. I feel very blessed. She never remarried. Instead, she turned inward, choosing self-discovery over compromise, and finding strength in the friendships that anchored her through every storm. In 2016, one of those bonds took her back to the stage. Ali MacGraw reunited with her love story co-star, Ryan O'Neal, for a touring production of Love Letters. The chemistry was effortless, the magic undeniable. For audiences, it was nostalgia brought to life. But for MacGraw, it was a simple, profound truth that some connections outlast time itself. Still, her story didn't end there. Her creative spark blazed on, this time in fashion. With Ibu, a collective empowering female artisans worldwide, MacGraw helped design clothing that wasn't just fabric, but a celebration of heritage and a statement of resilience. From Hollywood's brightest star to a woman who walked through fire and emerged unbroken, Ali MacGraw found not only recovery, but rebirth. And in that rebirth, she gave the world something more enduring than fame: the proof that strength, grace, and hope can outlast even the darkest chapters. For a woman who once gave up everything, including a soaring Hollywood career, to live inside someone else's shadow, this chapter became her chance to reclaim herself. It wasn't about sacrifice anymore. It was about independence. And even now, at 85, Ali MacGraw refuses to soften the truth of her past. She speaks openly of Steve McQueen, a man she calls chemical, admitting she felt the danger from the very first spark. The pull was magnetic, but so was the chaos that followed. She doesn't romanticize it. Instead, she paints a raw picture. There were wonderful days and dreadful days, she has said. I'm not a victim in any way. There were many times that were just wonderful and many times that were just ghastly. That brutal honesty is what makes her story resonate far beyond Hollywood. She's no longer just the girl from Love Story. She's a survivor, someone who walked through fame, heartbreak, addiction, and devastating loss, and somehow emerged with the strength to finally tell her truth. When she looks back on McQueen, her memories hold both love and sorrow, proof that even the most dazzling love stories can be shadowed by deep pain.